The WorkPlace mobile application introduces a new navigation layout optimized for mobile devices to support the new on-the-go features introduced with WorkPlace 2017. WorkPlace Mobile is available for both Apple and Android devices. When WorkPlace Mobile is licensed and the app downloaded from iTunes or the Google Play Store, a user can access WorkPlace Mobile to enter requisitions, expenses, or timesheets. For this video, I have the core modules of requisition, expense, and time licensed, and this user has the ability to enter and approve for each of those modules. If a customer is not licensed for a particular module, or if the user does not have access, then they will only see what they've been allowed to access and view via their setup within WorkPlace security. From the home page, you can add an expense line, add a timeline to a timesheet, shop WorkPlace internal catalogs across companies to be able to build a shopping cart and then create a requisition to submit for approval. Managers are now able to complete their to-do list with approvals from within the WorkPlace mobile app. Approvers are able to view all outstanding requisitions, check requests, travel requests, and expenses that are awaiting approval, and open approval sessions across multiple WorkPlace companies from a single dashboard. Approve, disapprove, view transactions details, and provide notes to requesters while processing approvals on the go. From within the entry screen, you have the ability to add expense lines, view expense lines that have already been entered, create expense sheets to process those expense lines and submit for approval, shop WorkPlace internal catalogs, review shopping carts and generate requisitions from those shopping carts, add additional lines for time, view lines that have already been entered, and then also create a timesheet from those lines that have been entered within the WorkPlace mobile app. From the home page, you have the ability to add expense lines. We'll click on Add Expense. You can choose the company that you want to be able to add the expense for if you have access to multiple companies. You can take a picture of the receipt using your mobile device. So we'll take a photo here. Once you take the photo, then you can determine if that looks good. Click on OK, and then it will scan and read the information from that receipt and populate the lines on the expense detail. It'll pull that information in. If it finds multiple choices for the description as an example, it'll give you what those choices may be. So if that was not correct, you could then pick the correct one. You can also choose your expense types. So let's just say that these were shipping fees. So we can put that as our expense type. How did we pay for it? And both expense type and payment method can be defined based upon what's appropriate for your organization. You can call them whatever you'd like to call them and then have the different ones available by user to be able to select from. If this expense is project related, then you can add project phase or activity information or whatever the appropriate fields may be for the project solution that you are integrated to, and then click on Submit, and it will now submit that expense line and it'll be available to enter onto an expense sheet. Now you can either enter that expense line from within the browser-based portion of WorkPlace where you're able to select it there, or now from within the WorkPlace mobile app, you can come into Entry, you can view the expenses that have been scanned and created. You can click on Create Expense Sheet. You can name that. So this was for a conference in Nashville. You can then pick the appropriate lines for that conference and then click on Submit. Once you click there, it is now going to submit that expense sheet, and that expense sheet will route for approval based upon the routing rules that you've got set up within the WorkPlace application. So you can see that expense sheet number 49 has been created. If we come down here and look at history, you're going to be able to see the history of the transactions that were created. So if we click on expense, and there's expense sheet number 49, you can see the lines that are on the expense sheet, and you can see that they're both waiting for approval from Foy Maynor. And you can also see additional information and additional details for those lines. As a part of WorkPlace, we do have unlimited levels of approval, unlimited approval paths, and line item detail approvals. So it is possible that each of these expense lines could route to a different person or through a different group of people for their approval. And if that had been the case, you would see a different status there for those approvals or wherever those expense lines may be in the process. We'll go ahead and stay in as the same user for our demo purposes right now. we'll click on approval, and you'll say that once we click on approval, you're able to come in and approve expense sheets. You can approve expense sheets from different companies right here from the same screen. You would pick the ones that you want to approve. You would then pick the expense sheet that you want to approve, and you could approve, disapprove, or leave as awaiting for the entire expense sheet, or you can also act on the individual lines. You can enter a note here whether you approve or disapprove. Maybe they attached the wrong receipt. Maybe they didn't pick the correct information on the receipt, so we could tell them to attach the correct receipt and resubmit. And then we'll indicate that we're going to disapprove that line. When you disapprove a line, it'll go back to the original creator of the expense sheet. When you approve a line, it will move on through the process. And if you leave a line as awaiting, it'll remain in the queue to be acted on later. Click on Submit. You've now submitted that approval session. Again, items that are approved move on. Items that are disapproved will go back with the reason that they were disapproved for the user to be able to act on those there. And then once the expense lines are fully approved, they'll be available to send over into the back office, financial, or ERP system for further processing and payment for reimbursement.